Hey y'all, welcome back. My name is Sarah and I love to talk about movies, especially a movie like this. Seven is one of my all-time favorite crime thriller, psychological thriller movies, period. Even though this movie came out in the 90s, it is absolutely so well made, so well performed, that you could pull this film out anytime into the future and it will be just as impactful as it was when it first came out. I stand by that 100%. But let's get into it because you might not have seen it. One of our main characters, Detective Somerset, is getting ready for his day. You hear the city sounds, urban life, people talking, cars. You see him getting up, going through his routine, getting dressed, making sure he's got his keys, his badge, his whatever, before he goes out the door. And in the next scene, you see Detective Somerset at a crime scene. And there's another detective in there as well, and he's giving him the rundown. Information that the neighbors gave them about how the couple that lived there would argue and get into fights. Detective Somerset is looking around and he notices something on the refrigerator, so he goes over to look at it and he asks the other detective, hey, did the kid see it? And he said, see what? He's like, the kid. And the detective is kind of complaining to him. He's like, boy, we are going to be so grateful when you get out of here. It's always these questions with you. Why does it matter if he saw it? The man is dead. So right away you learn that he's about to retire, and that he asks questions that other people wouldn't normally ask. So right away that sets you up to know that this is going to be a different kind of character. As he's leaving, he's greeted by the new guy to their unit. He'll be taking over when Somerset retires. So he introduces himself, he apologizes for, just coming in like that and saying that he wants to get started right away. He's very eager to get started. And that is Detective Mills' character. So they get off to a rocky start, kind of butting heads already. So the next case that Somerset is assigned is of an obese man that has died. Looks like he died in the middle of eating. So they both show up on the scene, they're making observations, they're getting information. Somerset is asking questions. The doctor shows up to verify that yes, the man is actually dead, and they notice all of these weird kind of details, like there's a bucket with vomit in it underneath the table, things like that. Things that are odd and out of place for the scene. After the victim is taken to be processed, find out from the coroner, I'm not quite sure if that's what his title is, but he's giving them the rundown on all of the injuries that this person sustained and what caused his death. And they find out that basically someone forced him to eat until his stomach became so swollen that when this person hit him, it burst and caused, in part, his death. So Somerset is actually, I don't want to get involved with this. It's my last week here. I don't want to get involved with a case like this. Mills is right behind him, yeah, I'll take it. It's no problem. But Somerset is still conducting his own research and is connecting the dots on certain details on his own, and he's just passing along suggestions to Mills. The next day, there is another murder, this time a much more high-profile murder of a prosecutor who died after being forced to mutilate himself. So each day, there is another murder, and Somerset learns that these murders are connected to the concept of the 7 deadly sins. At each scene, there is a clue that leads them to another crime, another victim, and another clue. Each crime and each victim become more and more violent and more symbolic as the days pass. And it forces both detectives to think outside the box. They have a break in the case when Somerset gets the idea to contact an associate of his who works at the FBI and is able to pull library records. They're looking for a specific collection of books that overlap with the idea of the 7 deadly sins and the acts that these victims have been forced to perform. So they find the connections based on library records and trace the patron back to a residence. And when they show up there, they're attacked. They follow the perpetrator. They don't manage to catch him, but they do manage to get into the residence. And there is a mountain of evidence and information there. Journals, trophies from each scene. This person then calls them and makes contact with them for the first time. Very cryptic messages. So at this point, all they can do is process the scene, see if they can find more clues until another crime comes in that seems to be related to the 7 deadly sins. They go to that scene. Things appear to be escalating right up until the 6th day, where a man shows up at the police station and confesses to the crimes. During the course of being interviewed, he asks for a lawyer and says that there's another victim and that he'll tell them where this victim is if Somerset and Detective Mills accompany him to the location. If not, he won't confess and they'll be forced to take it to trial, and they'll have to prove his guilt in that way. But if they do, he'll confess across the board and he'll tell them where the victim is. So Somerset and Mills agree to accompany him. He ends up leading them way out of town into an abandoned area where there's lots of electrical fields where they have those really big utility lines and stuff. So on the way to this destination, Detectives Somerset and Mills are talking to John Doe, trying to find out more about his motivations and what drove him to do all of this. They're driving out there when a delivery van shows up. Somerset stops the van. He says that he was paid to deliver a package there at exactly that time, and it's a box. So they signal to a helicopter that has been accompanying them that they're sending him off, and they go and pick him up and whatnot. So Somerset's at the van with the package. Mills is back with John Doe. Well, they say that they're waiting on the bomb squad, but then Somerset that he can't wait, so he decides to open the package. He opens it, and there's a head inside the box. And the head belongs to Detective Mills' wife. So he immediately starts moving back to Mills and John Doe, and John Doe starts telling him that he envied him, that he was so jealous of his life, that the life he was trying to build, and that he went to his apartment and met his wife. So he tells him what's in the box, and Somerset comes up and he's like, put the gun down, let's just talk, we'll figure it out. And he's like, tell me what's in the box. Is he telling the truth? What was in there? And Somerset admits what's in there. As it turns out, John Doe had planned for Detective Mills to be the hand of wrath, and he acknowledged that he himself was envy. And then he told him a bit of information that sent Mills over the edge, and he shot and killed him right on the spot. So that is witnessed by the SWAT members in the helicopter and Detective Somerset. The scene sort of fades, and when it comes back up, there are police cars everywhere. Mills is in handcuffs, and Somerset is there as well, and his captain is there, and they're saying that they'll do what they can for him, extenuating circumstances, and Somerset says that he'll be around for him if he needs him. And that is how the movie ends. I've seen this movie multiple times, and every time I watch it, I notice a different detail that I didn't notice before because it's that layered. This is a real psychological crime thriller. There are so many clues and details in this film that are not designed to say, look here, look there, look there. They are designed to be there in the scene for you as the viewer to find, for you to use your own observations and make those connections. This movie is very, very disturbing. This is a very, very disturbing film. There is some action-based violence where, for example, Detective Mills and John Doe get into a fight, and then there is implied extreme violence. For example, the sloth character. When we see that victim for the first time, he's already dead. So everything that they learn about him is post-mortem. It's their interpretation of the wounds that he received, building up the sort of timeline of events leading up to his death. Same thing with the greed character, where they find him in his office and he's already dead. And they are recreating the events that must have led up to his death. So you don't actually see these people mutilating themselves or John Doe mutilating anyone, but it is shown in such a way that it is unmistakable what actions occurred. So I just wanted to warn you ahead of time. It is graphic in terms of the extreme level of implied violence, but you don't actually witness it happening. Your mind is filling in the blanks, and that could be even worse sometimes. But I just wanted to let you know that if you decide to watch this movie, I don't want y'all pointing the finger at me like I didn't let you know. This is such a great, well-structured, well-organized, incredibly acted, character-driven film. Sometimes in crime thrillers, it becomes all about the crime and the solving of the crime than it is about the characters. And sometimes it's all about the characters and less about how the crime gets solved. In this case, I think there was a great balance of both, where you have these relatable, realistic types of characters and this extreme set of crimes, but the circumstances seem plausible in like today's age and today's society. It could happen, especially in the environment that they're in, which is consistently emphasized over and over throughout the film. How dangerous it is, how the city has changed, how there's violence for the sake of violence, extreme violence for the sake of extreme violence, and just the costume. Oh my gosh, the coats and the button-up shirts and their hats and pants and just the locations, the library location, beautiful. That diner, I love the look of it, which is a slightly grainy, higher contrast. So like the shadows are deep, the highlights are softer, the color tends to be more cool toned, but not to the point where it seems highly stylized, you know? Without a shadow of a doubt, 5 out of 5. I'd highly recommend it. Again, because I gotta say this again, there is a lot of implied extreme violence. Okay? Beware. Let me know what you guys thought about it. If you haven't seen it in a while and revisited it, have you noticed things in watching it recently that you may have missed in a previous watching? And thank you for spending your time here with me. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you all next time.